names were carved into stone. The ancient Egyptians imagined the sun not as an object in the sky, but as a living presence. They called him Ra. Each morning, he was born again at the eastern horizon, gentle and golden, lifting the world from darkness with quiet authority. But it was not the day they feared. It was the night. As evening approached, Ra did not weaken. He prepared. When the sun touched the western edge of the land, the Egyptians believed Ra entered his solar boat and began a journey unseen by human eyes. This was not a descent into chaos. It was a sacred passage. Every night, Ra traveled through the Duat, the hidden realm beneath the world, so that the sun could rise again. To the Egyptians, night was not empty. It was active, alive, and filled with unseen movement. The Duat was a place of rivers, gates, serpents, and silence. Ra moved through it slowly, hour by hour, guided by ancient knowledge older than gods themselves. Each stage of the journey tested order against disorder. Ra was no reckless warrior. He was aged, wise, and deliberate. In some myths, his voice alone carried creative power. In others, his eyes were the sun itself. But at night, Ra depended on protection. Other gods traveled with him, guardians, guides, and watchers, because even the sun needed help in the dark. The Egyptians did not imagine this journey to frighten themselves. They imagined it to explain continuity, why the sun always returned, why chaos never fully won, why even after darkness, light came back, reliably, patiently, without fail. As you listen now, imagine that moment when daylight fades, not with sadness, but with trust. Ra does not disappear. He continues his work where you cannot see him. In the Duat, time did not move as it did on Earth. Each hour of the night had its own name, its own guardians, its own rhythm. Ancient texts describe gates that opened only when spoken to correctly, waters that reflected memory instead of light, and beings that tested balance rather than strength. Ra's solar boat glided through these realms without haste. There was no panic in his movement, only certainty. The Egyptians believed that order, Maat, depended on this nightly passage. If Ra failed, the world above would unravel. Crops would fail, rivers would dry, life would lose its rhythm. Among the many dangers of the Duat was the great serpent Apophis, embodiment of chaos. Each night, Apophis attempted to stop the sunboat, to swallow it, to end the cycle forever. But Ra was never alone. His companions stood ready, defending not with rage, but with knowledge and repetition. The same struggle occurred every night, and every night, order held. This repetition mattered deeply to the Egyptian mind. The battle was not dramatic, it was dependable. Chaos did not vanish forever, but it was contained, and that containment allowed life to continue. To the Egyptians, sleep mirrored this journey. Each night, the soul loosened its ties to the body, traveling briefly through unknown spaces, before returning at dawn. Ra's journey reassured them it was safe to let go. The path had been walked before. As your thoughts slow, imagine yourself drifting with the solar boat, not fighting, not fearing, simply moving forward, hour by hour, protected by rhythm older than memory. When the final hours of night passed, Ra approached the eastern horizon once more. The Duat loosened its grip. Gates closed behind him, waters stilled, and the sun was reborn, not as conquest, but as renewal. This daily rebirth mattered more than any single victory. It taught the Egyptians that endurance, not force, sustained the universe. Ra aged and renewed. He weakened and returned. And through this cycle, life learned patience. Ra was not distant. He was present in every sunrise, every shadow shortening, every warm stone at noon. And at night, when humans slept, he worked quietly so they could wake again. Now, as your own night deepens, you can rest within that ancient trust. Darkness is not an ending. It is a passage. Something moves through it on your behalf. Something older than fear. Let Ra carry the light while you sleep. As Ra moved deeper into the Duat, the world above slept. Humans closed their eyes, unaware that the balance of existence was being maintained beneath their dreams. The Egyptians believed that every night the sun god passed through 12 regions, each corresponding to an hour of darkness. These were not merely locations, they were states of being. In some regions, Ra encountered souls who had not yet found peace. These spirits were not punished. They were waiting for recognition, for order, for the continuation of the cycle. Ra did not stop to judge them. His presence alone acknowledged their place within the greater design. The Duat was not silent because it was empty. It was silent because it was precise. Every being had a role. Every movement had meaning. Even stillness was purposeful. Ra's passage brought structure to these realms, much like the sun structured the human day. To the Egyptians, this explained why dreams could feel vivid, heavy, or strangely ordered. During sleep, the soul drifted closer to the Duat, brushing against the same currents Ra traveled. Dreams were not chaos. They were echoes. As you listen, imagine that drifting sensation. When thoughts blur, when images rise and fall without effort. That is the place where Ra travels every night. And like him, you are not lost there. The greatest threat Ra faced during his night journey was not darkness itself, but disruption. Chaos had a name, Apophis, a vast serpent who represented stagnation, forgetting, and the end of cycles. Each night, Apophis attempted the same act, to halt the solar boat, to trap the sun in endless night. This struggle was not imagined as a dramatic explosion of violence. It was rhythmic, predictable, almost ritualistic. Apophis rose. Ra's guardians responded. Spells were spoken. Order was reinforced. And the boat continued forward. This repetition mattered deeply. It taught that chaos does not disappear forever. It returns, again and again. But it can be managed, contained, balanced. Victory was not final. It was continual. The Egyptians found comfort in this idea. Life was not about eliminating disorder, but about meeting it with consistency. The sun rose not because chaos was destroyed, but because it was held in check. Every night, without fail, as your breathing slows, imagine that same reassurance. Thoughts may rise, worries may surface, but they do not need to be fought. They can pass. Like Apophis, they lose power when met without panic. Ra continues forward, and so do you. At the midpoint of the night, Ra was believed to renew himself. Some texts describe him merging with Osiris, lord of the underworld, drawing strength from death itself. This union was not morbid. It was regenerative. Death fed life. Darkness fed dawn. This idea shaped Egyptian understanding of endurance. Nothing existed alone. Even the sun required rest, renewal, and cooperation. Ra was powerful, not because he stood apart, but because he participated in the cycle fully. The solar boat slowed, the Duat deepened, and yet the direction never changed. Forward, always forward, not hurried, not delayed. For those who slept above, this was the deepest hour of night, the moment when the world felt furthest from morning. But beneath that stillness, the turning continued. If you have ever woken briefly in the middle of the night, unsure of time or place, you have touched this hour, the space where nothing seems to move, yet everything is preparing to. Ra teaches that this moment is not failure. It is necessary. Rest happens here. Renewal begins here. You do not need to force sleep. Like the sun, you will rise again. As the night continued, Ra passed into the later hours of the Duat, where the darkness no longer felt heavy, but expectant. These were the hours closest to renewal. The Egyptians believed that the world, like the sun, needed time to loosen its grip before beginning again. Nothing new could rise unless something old softened first. In these regions, Ra encountered forms that represented memory and forgetting, shapes that dissolved as he approached, shadows that did not resist. The Duat responded to him not as an enemy, but as a rhythm it recognized. His presence aligned what had drifted out of place. This part of the journey was quieter than the struggle with Apophis. There was no opposition here, only alignment, only preparation. The solar boat moved as if guided by something deeper than will. As if the path itself remembered him, the Egyptians understood this stage as the reason mornings felt possible even after the longest nights. Because beneath exhaustion, something had already begun to turn. Order did not arrive suddenly. It approached gently. If you are awake now, listening, this is that hour. The time when effort no longer helps. When thinking less allows more to happen. Ra does not force the dawn. He allows it. Let your thoughts drift. They do not need direction. Like the solar boat, they already know where they are going. In ancient texts, the final gates of the Duat were guarded not by monsters, but by names. Words mattered. Knowledge mattered. Ra passed because he belonged to the pattern itself. He did not need to prove his worth. His existence was enough. This idea shaped how Egyptians viewed wisdom. It was not about domination, but familiarity. To know the names of things was to move through them without resistance. To move without resistance was to conserve energy. And energy, when preserved, returned as light. Ra's boat grew brighter as it approached the edge of the underworld. Not suddenly, slowly, like the first hint of warmth felt before sunrise. The Duat loosened, its rivers calmed, its gates closed behind him, not with finality, but with trust. Above the world, the sky began to pale. No human saw Ra emerge from the depths. They only saw the result. The sun returning, unchanged, dependable. This dependability was sacred. It told the Egyptians that life could be trusted again, that sleep was safe, that letting go did not mean disappearance. As your body rests, imagine that pale light approaching, not waking you, just reassuring you. Morning exists, but it does not need your attention yet. When Ra finally rose at the eastern horizon, he was not victorious. He was renewed. The night had not been conquered. It had been completed. And completion, to the Egyptian mind, was the highest form of success. Ra's rebirth was mirrored in the waking world. Birds stirred, shadows shortened, stones warmed. Life resumed not because it was commanded to, but because balance had been restored. This cycle repeated every day, every night, without exhaustion. Ra aged and renewed endlessly. His constancy taught patience. His journey taught trust. Now, as you listen, you are part of that same rhythm. Your night does not need to be rushed. Sleep does not need to be forced. Like Ra, you are allowed to travel unseen, to rest in darkness, to return when ready. The sun will rise, whether you watch it or not, and you will wake when your body is prepared. Until then, let the boat drift. Let the night complete itself. When Ra completed his passage through the Duat and rose once more into the sky, the Egyptians did not imagine him as eternally young. The sun aged as the day progressed. Morning was childhood, noon was strength, evening was wisdom. This aging was not a flaw, it was sacred truth. As Ra moved across the sky in his day boat, he observed the world he sustained. Fields grew, rivers flowed, people worked, rested, and lived beneath his gaze. But Ra was not a ruler demanding attention. He was a presence that allowed life to unfold. By afternoon, his light softened. Shadows lengthened. The heat eased. This change was not decay. It was preparation. The Egyptians understood that nothing could remain at its peak forever. Even the sun needed to descend in order to rise again. In this belief, there is deep comfort. Strength does not vanish when it fades. It transforms. Ra did not weaken as evening approached. He gathered experience. His journey toward the west was a return, not a retreat. As you move through your own day, this rhythm still exists. Energy rises, energy falls, and neither phase is wrong. Like Ra, you are not meant to remain in one state. Change is not loss, it is movement. Let this thought settle. You do not need to be bright all the time. Dimming is part of the cycle. At the western horizon, Ra approached the moment the Egyptians called entering the night. The sun did not vanish suddenly. It softened, colored the sky, and slipped away gradually. This gentleness mattered. Transitions were meant to be felt, not forced. Temples were aligned to this movement. Hymns were spoken, offerings were made, not to beg Ra to return, but to acknowledge the order he maintained. Gratitude was part of balance. Ra entered his night form once again, preparing for the unseen journey beneath the earth. The Egyptians believed this preparation was as important as the journey itself. One did not rush into darkness. One approached it with respect. Evening, in this sense, was sacred. A time to slow speech, to lower voices, to release what no longer served the coming night. Ra showed them how to do this by example. As you listen now, notice how the body naturally wants to follow this pattern. Muscles soften, thoughts slow, attention narrows gently. You are not failing at wakefulness. You are succeeding at rest. Ra does not resist the night. Neither should you. The Egyptians never asked why the cycle existed. They accepted it. The sun's journey did not need justification. It needed participation. Humans aligned their lives to its rhythm, trusting that continuity was stronger than control. Ra taught them that permanence did not mean stillness. It meant repetition, doing the same essential work again and again, without resentment, without urgency, with care. This idea shaped their understanding of eternity. Not endless time, but endless return. The same dawn, the same dusk, the same journey, completed faithfully. As night deepens for you, this story becomes less about Ra and more about rhythm. Breath in, breath out. Thought rises, thought falls. Sleep approaches not as a demand, but as a return. You are not required to be alert now. The work of the day is complete. The night has its own work, and it is gentle. Let Ra take the light with him. You may rest in the dark. As Ra entered the first hours of night once more, the Egyptians believed the boundary between the human world and the Duat grew thin. This was not a moment of danger. It was a moment of closeness. Dreams were thought to move more freely now, slipping between layers of existence like mist across cool stone. In this hour, Ra's boat was calm. The waters beneath it reflected memory rather than light. Faces appeared briefly and faded again. Not ghosts to be feared, impressions, echoes of what had been lived. Ra did not linger on them. He acknowledged their place and continued forward. The Egyptians believed that during sleep, the soul loosened itself from the body, not completely leaving, but wandering gently. This wandering mirrored Ra's own journey. Just as the sun traveled unseen to ensure the dawn, the soul traveled unseen to renew itself. This belief softened the fear of sleep. Closing one's eyes was not surrender. It was participation in a cycle older than any individual life. The night held purpose, even when it felt empty. As your thoughts begin to drift, imagine this first hour of Ra's return to the Duat. The world above quiets. The world below awakens softly. Nothing rushes. Nothing calls loudly. There is only movement without effort. You are safe to let go here. In the middle hours of the night, Ra encountered regions of the Duat shaped by time itself. These were places where past and future felt indistinct, where moments layered upon one another like sediment. The Egyptians believed these regions explained why memories surfaced in dreams without invitation. Ra did not correct these memories. He passed through them. His presence stabilized them, preventing them from overwhelming the journey. In this way, he modeled how to move through memory without becoming trapped by it. This mattered deeply to a culture that valued continuity. To remember without being consumed. To honor the past without refusing the future. Ra's movement through these regions showed that balance could be maintained even when time felt fluid. As you lie still, listening, your own memories may rise. Small fragments, old voices, unfinished thoughts. You do not need to engage with them. Like Ra, you can allow them to exist without stopping your progress. The night does not ask for resolution. It offers rest. Memory can soften. Thought can loosen. The mind does not need to organize itself now. Ra continues forward, not because he forces himself to, but because the cycle carries him. Toward the later part of the night, the Duat grew quieter again. The regions of memory thinned, the waters smoothed. Ra's boat moved with less resistance, as if the path itself had grown familiar. The Egyptians understood this as the body's deepest rest, the time when effort ceased and renewal occurred without conscious action. Ra did not need to defend himself here. The struggle had passed. Only continuation remained. This was the hour closest to healing. Wounds mended quietly. Energy returned slowly. Nothing announced itself. Renewal did not make noise. As your breathing deepens, you may feel this same shift. The mind releases its grip. The body settles into its own rhythms. Sleep no longer needs encouragement. Ra teaches that rest is not inactivity. It is preparation. It is the quiet work that allows light to return. You are allowed to remain here as long as you need. The dawn will come on its own. In the deepest hours of the night, Ra's journey entered a region the Egyptians described not with images, but with silence. This was not emptiness. It was fullness without movement. Here, nothing demanded attention. Nothing needed to be named. Ra's boat drifted almost without effort. The waters were still, thick like velvet. The light he carried dimmed further, not as a sign of danger, but as an act of trust. The sun did not need to be bright here. It only needed to endure. The Egyptians believed this hour mirrored the deepest human sleep, a state where the self loosens completely, where identity softens, where even dreams fade into something quieter. This was the hour of true restoration. As you listen now, your body may recognize this space. Breathing becomes slower. Muscles release their last held tension. Thoughts lose their edges. You are not falling away. You are settling inward. Ra teaches that not all strength announces itself. Some strength is quiet enough to feel like nothing at all. Remain here, in this silent depth. Ra was not alone, though no voices spoke. The Egyptians believed unseen forces accompanied him, principles rather than beings, order, continuity, balance. These were not figures with faces. They were movements that ensured the journey continued. There was no struggle now, no serpent to defeat, no gate to pass. The most difficult part had already occurred earlier in the night. What remained was trust in the cycle itself. This belief shaped how Egyptians viewed endurance. Effort had its place, but so did surrender. Knowing when to stop pushing was wisdom. As your own mind quiets, this lesson applies gently. You do not need to solve anything tonight. The day's questions will wait. The night's purpose is different. Ra does not hurry here, neither should you. Just before the first hint of dawn, Ra's light began to change. Not brighten yet, but prepare. The Duat loosened its hold. The waters subtly shifted. A direction emerged, though no sun had yet risen. The Egyptians believed this moment was invisible but essential. The instant before renewal, the breath before awakening. This is where sleep completes its work. As you rest here, you are closer to morning than you realize. But there is no need to rush toward it. Dawn always arrives when it is ready. Ra's journey continues. Yours may pause. Rest. At the far edge of the Duat, where night begins to thin, Ra's presence changed once more. This was not sunrise yet. It was preparation. The kind that happens quietly, before the world becomes aware. The Egyptians believed this moment existed outside ordinary time, a pause between darkness and light, a space where endings dissolved and beginnings had not yet formed. Ra did not rush forward. His boat slowed even further, as if honoring the night that had carried him safely. The Duat, once shadowed and deep, softened around him. The waters became lighter, clearer, almost reflective. This was the hour when sleep loosens its grip, but does not release it fully. When the body remains still, yet the mind begins to float closer to waking. If you feel suspended right now, neither fully asleep nor fully awake, You are exactly where this story wishes you to be. The Egyptians believed this transition was sacred. To wake too abruptly was to disrupt balance. To rise gently was to align with the rhythm of the gods. Ra teaches patience here. Let the night finish its work. As Ra approached the threshold of dawn, his light gathered, not in brightness, but in clarity. The sun god was not becoming stronger. He was becoming whole again. This distinction mattered deeply to the ancient Egyptians. Strength could be loud. Wholeness was quiet. Ra's journey through the Duat was never about conquering darkness. It was about passing through it without losing himself. This belief shaped how Egyptians understood rest. Sleep was not an absence of life. It was a necessary passage through shadow, so that light could return renewed. As your breathing remains slow and steady, your own inner light does the same. It does not vanish during sleep. It gathers. Ra's boat drifted upward toward the unseen horizon. The Duat did not resist. Night did not cling. Darkness in this mythology was never an enemy. It was a companion that knew when to step aside. Rest in that thought. Finally, without fanfare, the journey completed itself. Ra crossed the boundary between night and day, so gently that the world barely noticed. The first suggestion of dawn appeared, not as light, but as warmth. The Egyptians believed this moment renewed all things: crops, rivers, hearts, minds, and those who slept well were said to rise carrying a small piece of this renewal within them. If you are drifting toward sleep now, you are traveling the same path Ra once did. Not toward effort, not toward thought, but toward restoration. The sun will rise when it must. For now, rest. Ra does not stop when the night ends. As the darkness slowly thins, his journey begins again, unseen, unheard. The waters of the Duat grow quiet once more. The solar boat drifts back into shadow, and the cycle continues just as it always has. There is nothing you need to do, nothing you need to remember. The night knows the way, and Ra is already traveling it again. Rest now, and let the journey continue.